Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cynispection, the show where we reviewed Spanish movies from 1997 that everybody's thinking about, including us. I'm John. I'm Gabe. That's John. It doesn't
Welcome
matter.
to another week.
Interchangeable. This is how did this come up? Like, how did we? The movie is called Open Your Eyes. Abre los Ojos. It's a Spanish movie from 1997. How did this come up? Was it because of
It was
Kill
because
Your Darling?
of last
What's
week's
the name?
episode.
Kill Your Darling?
No. Don't worry, darling.
Don't worry.
It's so forgettable that we already forgot it.
Also, Kill Your Darling, isn't that a movie? I think it's like Daniel Radcliffe is in it. It doesn't matter. Yes. It came up when we were reviewing an inferior movie last week. We thought Don't Worry, Darling had elements of several movies, including Vanilla Sky, which we both know and love.
Yeah.
But then Abre los Ojos was created a few years before Vanilla Sky. Vanilla Sky is a remake.
Neither of us had ever seen it before.
Neither of us had ever seen it. For some reason, I'd seen parts of it. I remember seeing parts of it, but not like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, John, do you want to explain the plot, or do you want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, spoilers. It's a really old movie.
Video.
Yeah, we're not.
You're explaining the plot. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. So this is actually a pretty simple plot to explain.
Are you going to explain it without spoilers or with spoilers?
All right, I'm gonna try.
Do without spoilers.
First.
Kind of think of like the first 45 minutes, and then we go over it. Yeah.
All right, so this guy keeps waking up, and every time he wakes up, like things have changed a little bit, or he wakes up in a strange. It's like jump cuts, very much like Don't Worry, Darling. So if you saw Don't Worry, Darling, don't worry. It was in this movie first. So this guy lives a pretty good life. They don't really explain too much how he's wealthy, but he's wealthy. He has a company.
Seems implied that he's like inherited wealth.
Yeah, it's never frankly said, but it's kind of implied. Like he's a little bit of a playboy. The American remake plays this whole segment up that I'm kind of talking about. Tom Cruise is much more of a playboy in Vanilla Sky, right? And that's very much shown. But we're not talking about that. So yeah, this guy is what? He's I don't even know what he does. I don't even think they say. He has a company. He makes good money.
He keeps talking about his partners. So again, it seems like it's inherited wealth. And
yeah,
to me, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, so he makes money. He's a womanizer, sort of. They kind of allude to it, and they don't really show it. I don't think they showed it very much. Like, there's only one line in the movie that even alludes to it, which is like in the very beginning, where she's like something about blondes, which is funny because Cameron Diaz plays this character in the remake. So how do you say? So there's Sophia, which is played by Penelope Cruz, and she reprises that role. And then
Vanilla Sky, yeah.
Nuria?
And then yeah, I mean other actors like he. Well, you were gonna say the actors' names, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say her name. I don't know. Anyway,
so, I can look it up.
But yeah, it's Najwa, Najwa.
I don't know. Maybe it's a name I don't know either. So continue.
Yeah. Anyway, so Nuria and Sophia. Nuria is this woman who's like obsessed with the main character Cesar, and she picks him up from Penelope Cruz, Sophia's house one night after he's been out with her, and he like meets her and is enamored with Sophia immediately, and she crashes the car and disfigures his face. And she dies in the car accident. So then
seemingly dies.
Yeah, seemingly she dies.
Because then there's like levels.
Yeah, so then we start to get into Inception-y world where like things that had happened before are happening again, phrases that you heard before are happening, TV commercials, stuff like that. So a lot of deja vu.
So without going into full spoilers, it's like
yeah, I'm trying to.
stuff
That's
that
what I'm
might
really trying to avoid.
yeah.
Part.
No,
Yeah.
I mean let's leave it at stuff that might happen to you in a dream. Like
Yeah.
things don't make sense. Things start and end, and then something else cuts in, and you don't know exactly what happened. You're right. I mean, you described it right. I mean, it's we're trying to keep it vague. I'm sure we'll get to spoilers. We will get to spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna get to spoilers because we have to at the end. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the overall plot because it feels to me like, how do you sell this movie? You know, like how do you advertise it? Because
so
is it
that I think is the problem with the movie, right? Like,
well, but it's the same problem as Vanilla Sky, right?
Yeah, 100%. There's no way you can make a trailer for this movie that makes people want to see it without revealing the plot or without revealing what I'll call like the twist from now on. And I don't think it's that big of a twist. You can they actually allude to the twist the entire time, so I don't think it's crazy.
I mean, it's not the super twist, and when the twist comes in,
yeah,
it feels to me like the movie. I was happy to see how cynical it was, and that's
well,
I mean,
it led you to the answer, right? Like that's what. So like
right.
A lot of movies, like they do like a mic drop with the twist. So there's two different types of like twist, right? There's the one that is slowly crept into that if you're an astute viewer, you can pick it out and you'll figure out what's going to happen. And then there's like the Westworld level twist where you and I can sit there for 3 weeks speculating, and all of a sudden there's one scene in one like little monologue, and you're like, oh shit, like the whole world has changed.
The whole thing changed. Yeah, it's not that. And look, this is something that I found very interesting because this is the poster for Abre los Ojos. It's like a trippy, weird poster. His eyes are closed, but also open. Kind of, he seems to be asleep, which is a big theme of the movie. I found this poster to be very interesting, but you don't know what to expect, you know. And then this is the poster for Vanilla Sky, which just looks like a rom-com.
Yeah, Tom Cruise movie.
Look at what look like here in the bottom. It says love, hate, dreams, life, work, play, friendship, sex. So it's basically everything, right? And it's like I remember going to watch like watching Vanilla Sky in theaters, and I was like, this is going to be a rom-com, and it starts essentially as a rom-com.
Yeah,
like this guy has this like, you know, why not stand or fuck buddy or whatever you call her.
Yeah, whatever you call it. You know.
And then he meets this other girl, and they spend the night together without
with nothing,
sex or kisses. Just so Vanilla Sky is takes the same premise. It's essentially the same movie. But what I liked about
a lot of it's almost shot for shot.
A lot of it is shot. There's many shots that are exactly the same, which I found to be a bit of a letdown because I was like, oh, I wish they would have done their own thing. But in a way, they did, and that's what I want to talk about because Abre los Ojos is like way more cynical. Like it's like it's this guy who's like an unlikable douche. Like he's just a douchebag to his best friend. He keeps rubbing it in the friend's face, like, look at me, I'm getting more women than you. Look at me, I have more money than you. And he's just like a douche to the friend all the time. And then he has this lady who he doesn't care about, Nuria, right? He doesn't give two shits about. He treats her like garbage. And then he meets this other girl who incidentally was there dating his friend.
Yeah, on a date with his friend,
On a date with his friend. He just takes her. You know, like he leaves his own party to go with her to her place. Like it's just like, and his friend is drunk. He doesn't drive him home. He lets the friend go home alone, drunk, but drives the girl. Like that's how much of a douche he is. I feel like, even though the same things happen in Vanilla Sky, it's toned down like from a tone perspective because Tom Cruise can't be unlikable.
Yeah, you have to. Yes, I was gonna say that you cannot have an unlikable Tom Cruise. And the moment that he signed on for this, like at the end of this movie, you don't feel bad for Cesar. Like
no, not at all. You actually like. I mean, at some point, it's like why am I like worried about what happens to this guy?
Yeah,
and
I think at the end, I don't think.
Right, and I think that's exactly the point of the movie because a lot of it is it's all from his perspective, and a lot of the movie is kind of it made me think a lot, and maybe I'm just getting old and overthinking these things, but about like how some men like men treat women.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you see, like, for example, the one night stand lady that he has, or how do you call her?
Nuria?
No, but like
Nuria?
the character to compare it with Vanilla
Yeah, I
Sky.
mean, she's just
Fuck buddy, is
a
that the
friend with
best
benefits.
of the exactly the friend with benefits? The like in this movie, she's like she has like heavy white makeup and short hair,
Yeah.
and like she kind of like makes it look like she's kind of like an evil stepsister or something like that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and in Vanilla Sky, it's Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
You know,
And like the
both
height
actresses.
of Cameron Diaz too, by the way. 2003 Cameron Diaz. We're talking
Yes.
about like her heyday.
Right after The Mask and right after Scorsese, Gangs of New York, that Cameron Diaz, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, she did that in what, 99 or something.
Right. There's Something About Mary, you know.
Charlie's Angels was 2000.
Charlie's Angels, yeah. Pete Cameron
Shrek.
Diaz.
I mean, you get the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because in this one, like Cameron Diaz is just framed as a crazy lady, blah, blah. But in this one, it's like he sees her. Like I feel like we're looking at her from his eyes, and he's just like, oh, it's somebody like it's commenting on men sometimes thinking about women, like, oh, this is a woman that I just have fun with because you know she doesn't look like a good girl that I want to take home to my parents and.
Not Penelope Cruz.
Right. And then Penelope Cruz comes in and she's like, oh, it's the perfect one. And she's kind of like, she's a schoolgirl and kind of innocent. And it's just automatically like this one. But again, it's looking at them from his own eyes because Penelope Cruz is also kind of like a cynical, not very good person in this movie.
Well,
did you feel that?
She like, because he's disfigured, she doesn't want to talk to him anymore.
She doesn't want to talk to him anymore. He stands in front of her for a long time looking at her while she's doing the mime, she's being a mime, and she doesn't even look at him.
Yeah, she won't look at him. And then you come to find out that like he only literally had like those two interactions when he. I don't want to ruin it, but like
let's just ruin it. Spoilers.
Yeah,
it's a 25-year-old movie.
Shocker. Here we're gonna go to spoilers. He's dead. He died. Done.
100 years ago. 150 years ago.
150 years ago. This memory kicked in when they were able to have the technology to make him be able to live the dreams.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were like, there's two choices here. And this is the same in Vanilla Sky, but you either can live, like really live, or you can live in this dream world and we'll take care of the issues that you're having. But like, they're just bugs. This is version 1.
You can fix it by thinking about it. Like by thinking about it, he's like, my face looks good. Here's my girlfriend. Here's my car. He can just think about things and control the dream. So he's basically God. It's like, and that's kind of like the character's growth, right? He feels like he's God. He's like, I have all the girls. I have all the money. I have all, my best friend who's nice to me, even though I'm a douche. Everything. But by the end, he's like, you know what? Like, I need to wake up and live in the reality. And this is not my reality. Like, the perfect life is not my reality.
So the one thing that I think Vanilla Sky, if I remember right, they did a little bit better, which was they kind of told him like he didn't have any money left. Like, so in Vanilla Sky, his dad is like a publisher, and they actually like kind of dig into that. He like takes over a publishing company. He's just a playboy, typical like second generation CEO. Just going to burn through his parents' money.
Like Donald Trump Jr.
While he's been dead, all that money's gone. Like, he'll have enough to get his face reconstructed and live a normal life. But because publishing died and all of these other things, like, the money's gone. So it is in Vanilla Sky, the choice is a bit tougher, right? Like, you're going to go back and in this other world, they don't even talk about his wealth and they kind of leave the money thing aside. So you're going to go back and maybe he'll be rich, and that's a pretty decent choice. Like, I'm going to come back from the dead rich 150 years later. If you gave me that choice, I would say yes. But if I got to be poor 150 years in the future and not know, or just live in this dream world, I would live in Tom Cruise's dream world. I would live in Cesar's real world. Like, that's the only real
interesting point. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a different conundrum because they make those little changes, and I also feel like a lot of the movie because I rewatched there's a clip on YouTube of the last 10 minutes about Vanilla Sky, and I compared it. I watched it right after I finished Abre los Ojos, and I found it interesting that Abre los Ojos just ends, and you realize that Penelope Cruz, like, the character Sophia is barely in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what you see is actually his projection of what she is.
Yeah.
But he met her one night, and then
the second time he met her, she ignored him and hated him.
She ignored him. They were barely together. He
Yeah.
falls asleep in the street. Everything else is his projection of her.
Yeah, so everything after he falls asleep in the street, everything after that moment is all
dream.
fake. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting that she, like, in Abre los Ojos, by the end, like, he says goodbye to her, and I think he says "I love you" or something, or she says "I love you." You
Something
realize
like
that they,
yeah.
like, it's just like he's just hearing what he wants to hear, and it's pretty cynical about it. Like,
Yeah.
you realize, like, this is not a human being. But then I watch Vanilla Sky, and there you have a really tender, beautiful moment between him and Penelope Cruz. Like, I love you in every reality, or something like that. Like, it's just very cheesy. Again, like a rom-com. But this movie is just like, yeah, this is all bullshit. And his friend appears also in the rooftop, which doesn't happen in Vanilla Sky. The friend does not appear in the rooftop in Vanilla Sky. And he doesn't even say hi to him. Like, he just turns around. He doesn't say good. The friend is just there. He doesn't give a shit. You know, it's. I like the cynicism of this movie, and
well, he doesn't change, and he doesn't learn any consequences. So
he just learns that he can't live in the dream world.
But that's his only that is literally his only consequence in this movie. He's still a douche at the end. He still wants the girl at the end. Matter of fact, he's going back into the real world so that he can live a normal life, because he can't live one, like, now that he knows it's a dream.
Right.
So, like,
right.
You're right. It's very cynical. I mean,
it's very cynical. I loved it. I mean, I still love Vanilla Sky. It's its own thing. They're very similar shot for shot. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like scene for scene, even sometimes they just replicate the same thing. But tonally, you realize, like, these little things, like making the character more likable, like those kinds of things. There's a lot of, like, pop songs spread throughout Vanilla Sky that I don't think they had in this one. This one, the music was more like somber and kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they made a little bit more effort in Vanilla Sky to make it obvious, I think. Like, that he was dreaming. You could figure it out a little bit easier in Vanilla Sky, I think.
Well, yeah, because dreams are nice and colorful.
Yeah.
They fixed the sky. The sky looks like the vanilla sky, and here's just like, a rooftop in Madrid,
Yeah.
It's just like whatever. Like, so they're good companion movies. Like, if you hadn't seen any of them, I would just spoil them, but whatever. If you haven't seen any of them, I would recommend watching both, because it is a good example of how, like, little things can change the whole tone of the film, even though thematically it's mostly the same.
Yeah, and that goes, like, really, we complain a lot about movies that either put too much in, or they take too much out, or there's not enough detail, or there's too much detail. This is why, is because, like, literally changing the fact that he's a trust fund kid and the money's gone can change your entire opinion of, like, the decision that he has to make.
Right.
Versus, like, the cynicism that you see in Open Your Eyes, where it's just like, yeah, why wouldn't he go back? He's rich. Like, he's had 150 years to chill. Like, what's literally chilling, because he's frozen.
They can fix his face. I think they say they can fix your face. You'll
they can. You'd be So it's it's interesting. It's really interesting. I mean, it is Open Your Eyes is a little slow at times, I found.
It was a bit slower, way slower than it feels like a Spanish art house film.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, it was, but somehow, I mean, Vanilla Sky was slow too, and it was over 2
sort
hours.
of, but it has a lot of little jokes. Like, something else I noticed, a little detail. But in Vanilla Sky, he refers to the shareholders of his father's company as the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh yeah,
right, and they're, like, comically, like, they don't look like dwarfs, but they look like just weird like grumpy people.
Yeah.
This one he just says the partners. Like he's just they're not even there. So they put it in there to make it like more jokey, kind of like, oh, this guy's going through his own thing in the company because people don't.
Well, they
like
tried to make it
young.
more relatable. Like Tom Cruise's character was definitely more relatable. Like
Way more relatable.
Yeah, not in a good way necessarily, but
no, but you can like, oh, he's in love with her, and but if you think about it, like, why are you in love with somebody you met for one night and you do all this?
That's what I've been. Yeah, I mean, in both movies, that's the real question, right? This guy is enamored after one evening with this woman,
because of this idea, like she's the best because like reasons, you know.
Yeah, no,
it's a good criticism of how some men view women. Like it's actually it's a good criticism. It's a good message. It's not on your face, you know. It's not like modern. We keep saying this every week. We should stop this, but it's not on your face. It's there. It's something that I noticed. Something else that I thought was super cynical when she's like, "Hey, you know, are we gonna see each other again?" He's like, "Yeah, for sure." And she's like, "But what about your friend?" He's like, "Oh, he doesn't have to know."
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Don't you value friendship over?" No, she's like, "Good to see that you value friendship over love." And he's like, "Yeah, that's why I don't want him to know." It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, he's just a douchebag, you know. Like throughout the film, he's a douche.
But so we had originally, like you said at the beginning of the show, brought this up because I was talking about Vanilla Sky mixing with Don't Worry, Darling. Now that you've watched this after watching Don't Worry, Darling, do you agree? Like, they ripped off so much of this movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, look, this movie and Inception are similar in the sense of let's live in dreams or whatever.
Yeah.
This movie and The Matrix is similar. This movie and whatever. There's many like live in my own world kind of thing.
Yeah. Before.
Thematic before. The problem with Don't Worry, Darling was that you could feel that it wasn't being inspired by to create something new. It felt like he was taking from it without having any individual expression.
Yeah.
That's the way it felt like to me. It felt very corporate, very basic. And it's a waste of so many good actors. But if you want to hear us talk about Don't Worry, Darling, just
listen to last week. But I wanted to, because that's what inspired this whole podcast and this whole watch this week was, this movie is good. Go watch it. Like, I would definitely say if you haven't seen both, go watch this and Vanilla Sky after we ruined it. But I don't look, I don't think that this movie is ruined by knowing the ending. There are some movies where you know the twist and you're like, okay, that's ruined, right? I don't think that this is one of them because there's like little intricacies within the film that make it good, right? Like, if I were to blurt out the twist in Fight Club, it doesn't ruin Fight Club. Like, at least for me, Fight Club is one of the most detailed, complex pieces of like late 90s cinema out there.
But also Fight Club, knowing the twist in Fight Club kind of makes you pay more attention.
Yeah, on rewatch. Exactly.
On rewatch. Like The Sixth Sense. Like the twist, like those movies are more rewatchable because you know the twist. Like, you're like, okay, now I'm gonna notice new things, you know? Yeah, definitely.
So I think the same thing kind of goes with this. Like, knowing the twist doesn't affect it. I think you're gonna have your own opinion of it anyway. The outcome is the outcome. Like, you would have figured it out halfway through. Well, hopefully. If you listen to us every week, we're cynical, and we definitely were like,
we're cynical, and this movie's incredibly cynical. So that's why I loved it. Among other things, the cynicism is what I like the most. Like, I like they're just, it's just like, this is a crappy guy. What do you want? You know? And it's a common misconception in Hollywood sometimes that your main character has to be likable.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like sometimes like they have to be, funny and brave and whatever. And especially now when it's like, oh, this movie, the main character in this movie is, kind of mean. It's like, oh, this is perpetuating whatever.
Well, in this movie, you're just ambivalent. You just really don't give a shit about him. Like, matter of fact, the only character that I found to actually have, like, there are two characters, his best friend and his doctor.
The doctor was a nice guy who was completely made up, right? Completely part of
100% just artificial intelligence is what. Yeah. If this movie were made in 2021 or 2022, that's what it would be. Artificial.
Yes. And funny enough, do you remember who plays the doctor in Vanilla Sky? Don't look it up. Do you remember?
No, I have it up, so I don't even have to look it up. Who plays the Doctor in Vanilla Sky? Thomas
Your favorite
Tripp?
actor? No.
Hang on, who is it?
It's Kurt Russell.
Oh,
the man himself, back for more.
Yeah, so that's
Your face. Whoever's listening to this, go watch the video and see his disappointed face.
Yeah, I just Russell.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think that's all we have to say about.
Yeah, that's all we've got to say. Like and subscribe. Listen to us next week to see. Actually, I'll be in. It'll either be Monday or I'll be in Seattle. So we'll figure it out. But
oh crap! Yes, we might do it the same room.
Yeah, we might do it together. We'll see.
All right. Well, have a good week. I guess. What day is it today? Wednesday. Yeah. Have a good rest of the week or whatever. And we
watch 90s movies now. We were on 80s, now we're to 90s. Maybe we'll hit the early 2000s soon.
Well, here's the thing. Like we've been watching, like I told you a couple of weeks ago, like we've been watching only movies that we really like, and that's been good. And then all of a sudden we watch a modern movie and we're both like, oh, like last week we watched Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah, but we didn't hate Don't Worry, Darling.
We didn't hate it, but what did you enjoy more? Like watching Days of Thunder or Don't Worry?
Oh, Days of Thunder is awesome though.
Like or this or Don't Worry, Darling.
You know whose movies don't get remade? Tom Cruise's movies. I just thought about.
Sure,
that.
one has gotten remade, haven't they?
I don't think so. Next week on Cynispection, find out if Tom Cruise has ever had a movie remade.
I'm sure one has at least.
If they're remaking Patrick Swayze, they'll remake anything. Anyway,
whatever. Just not Back to the Future as long as Robert Zemeckis is alive. All right. Well,
see y'all next week.